Field hockey, or simply hockey, is a team sport of the hockey family. The earliest origins of the sport date back to the Middle Ages in Scotland, the Netherlands, and England. The game can be played on a grass field or a turf field as well as an indoor board surface. Each team plays with 11 players including the goalie. Players use sticks made out of wood or fiberglass to hit a round, hard, rubber-like ball. The length of the stick depends on the player's individual height. There are no left-hand sticks in field hockey, and only one side of the stick is allowed to be used. The uniform consists of shin guards, cleats, skirts or shorts, and a jersey. At the turn of the 21st century, the game is played globally, with particular popularity throughout Western Europe, the Indian subcontinent, and Australasia. Hockey is the national sport of Pakistan, and is sometimes assumed to be India's national sport as well, although officially India does not have a national sport. The term field hockey is used primarily in Canada, the United States, Eastern Europe and other regions of the world where the sport of ice hockey is more popular. During play, goalkeepers are the only players who are allowed to touch the ball with any part of their body, with this only applying within the shooting circle, while field players play the ball with the flat side of their stick. The team that scores the most goals by the end of the match wins. If the score is tied at the end of the game, either a draw is declared or the game goes into extra time and/or a penalty shootout, depending on the competition's format. The governing body of hockey is the International Hockey Federation, with men and women being represented internationally in competitions including the Olympic Games, World Cup, World League, Champions Trophy and Junior World Cup, with many countries running extensive junior, senior, and masters club competitions. The FIH is also responsible for organizing the Hockey Rules Board and developing the rules for the sport. A popular variant of field hockey is indoor field hockey, which differs in a number of respects while embodying the primary principles of hockey. Indoor hockey is a five-a-side variant, with a field which is reduced to approximately 40 ama, 20 am. With many of the rules remaining the same, including obstruction and feet, there are several key variations. Euro players may not raise the ball unless shooting on goal, players may not hit the ball, and the sidelines are replaced with solid barriers which the ball will rebound off. History. There is a depiction of a hockey-like game from 200 BC in ancient Greece when the game may have been called Ishi Micron I paragraph I Micron I to the first I 1/2, because it was played with a horn and a ball-like object. In East Asia, a similar game was entertained, using a carved wooden stick and ball prior to 300 BC. In Inner Mongolia, China, the Dao people have been playing Bako, a game with some similarities to field hockey, for about 1,000 years. The word hockey itself was recorded in 1363 when Edward III of England issued the proclamation, Over we ordain that he prohibit under penalty of imprisonment all and sundry from such stone, wood and iron throwing, handball, football, or hockey, coursing and cockfighting, or other such idle games. The modern game grew from English public schools in the early 19th century. The first club was in 1849 at Blackheath in southeast London, but the modern rules grew out of a version played by Middlesex cricket clubs for winter sport. Teddington Hockey Club formed the modern game by introducing the striking circle and changing the ball to a sphere from a rubber cube. The Hockey Association was founded in 1886. The first international took place in 1895 and the International Rules Board was founded in 1900. Field hockey was played at the Summer Olympics in 1908 and 1920. It was dropped in 1924, leading to the foundation of the FA Copyright DAO Copyright Ration International de Hockey Sorgazen as an international governing body by 7 continental European nations, and hockey was reinstated in 1928. Men's hockey united under the FIH in 1970. The two oldest trophies are the Irish Senior Cup, which dates back to 1894, and the Irish Junior Cup, a second 11-only competition instituted in 1895. In India, the Baton Cup and the Aga Khan tournament commenced within 10 years. Entering the Olympics in 1928, India won all 5 games without conceding a goal and won from 1932 until 1956 and then in 1964 and 1980. Pakistan won in 1960, 1968 and 1984. In the early 1970s artificial turf began to be used. Synthetic pitches changed most aspects of field hockey, gaining speed. New tactics and techniques such as the Indian dribble developed, followed by new rules to take account. The switch to synthetic surfaces ended Indian and Pakistani domination because artificial turf was too expensive in comparison to the wealthier European countries and since the 1970s Australia, the Netherlands and Germany have dominated at the Olympics. Women's field hockey was first played at British universities and schools. The first club, the Molesey Ladies, was founded in 1887. The first national association was the Irish Ladies Hockey Union in 1894, and though rebuffed by the Hockey Association, women's field hockey grew rapidly around the world. This led to the International Federation of Women's Hockey Associations in 1927, though this did not include many continental European countries where women played as sections of men's associations and were affiliated to the FIH. The IFWHA held conferences every 3 years, and tournaments associated with these were the primary IFWHA competitions. These tournaments were non-competitive until 1975. By the early 1970s there were 22 associations with women's sections in the FIH and 36 associations in the IFWHA. Discussions started about a common rule book. The FIH introduced competitive tournaments in 1974, forcing the acceptance of the principle of competitive field hockey by the IFWHA in 1973. It took until 1982 for the two bodies to merge, but this allowed the introduction of women's field hockey to the Olympic Games from 1980 where, as in the men's game, the Netherlands, Germany, and Australia have been consistently strong. Argentina has emerged as a team to be reckoned with since 2000, winning the World Championship in 2002 and 2010 and medals at the last 3 Olympics. Outside North America, participation is now fairly evenly balanced between men and women. For example, in England, England Hockey reports that as of the 2008 Euro 09 season there were 2488 registered men's teams, 1969 women's teams, 1042 boys teams, 966 girls teams and 274 mixed teams. In 2006 the Irish Hockey Association reported that the gender split among its players was approximately 65% female and 35% male. In its 2008 census, Hockey Australia reported 40,534 male club players and 41,542 female. However, in the United States of America, there are few field hockey clubs, most play taking place between high school or college sides, almost entirely of females. The strength of college field hockey reflects the impact of Title IX, which mandated that colleges should fund men's and women's sports programs comparably. In 1984, George Orwell's novel set in a totalitarian London, main character Winston Smith initially dislikes Julia, the woman he comes to love, because of the atmosphere of hockey fields and cold baths and community hikes and general clean-mindedness which she managed to carry about with her. Field of play. Most hockey field dimensions were originally fixed using whole numbers of imperial measures. Nevertheless, metric measurements are now the official dimensions as laid down by the International Hockey Federation in the Rules of Hockey. The pitch is a 91.4 AMA, a 55 AM rectangular field. At each end is a goal 2.14 AM high and 3.66 AM wide, as well as lines across the field 22.90 AM from each end line and in the center of the field. A spot 0.15 AM in diameter, called the penalty spot or stroke mark, is placed with its center 6.40 AM from the center of each goal. The shooting circle is 15 AM from the baseline. Traditional grass pitches are far less common in modern hockey, with most field hockey being played on synthetic surfaces. Since the 1970s, sand-based pitches have been favored as they dramatically speed up the game. However, In recent years there has been a massive increase in the number of water-based artificial turfs. Water-based synthetic turfs enable the ball to be transferred more quickly than on sand-based surfaces. It is this characteristic that has made them the surface of choice for international and national league competitions. Water-based surfaces are also less abrasive than sand-based surfaces and reduce the level of injury to players when they come into contact with the surface. The FIH are now proposing that new surfaces being laid should be of a hybrid variety which require less watering. This is due to the negative ecological effects of the high water requirements of water-based synthetic fields. Rules and play: the game is played between two teams of whom 11 are permitted to be on the pitch at any one time. The remaining players, the substitutes, may be substituted in any combination. There is an unlimited amount of times a team can sub in and out. Substitutions are permitted at any point in the game, apart from between the award and end of a penalty corner. Two exceptions to this rule is for injury or suspension of the defending goalkeeper, which is not allowed when playing with a field keep, or a player can exit the field, but you must wait until after the inserter touches the ball to put somebody back in. Players are permitted to play the ball with the flat of the face side and with the edges of the head and handle of the field hockey stick, with the exception that, for reasons of safety, the ball may not be struck hard with a forehand edge stroke, because of the difficulty of controlling the height and direction of the ball from that stroke. The flat side is always on the natural side for a right-handed person swinging the stick at the ball from right to left. Left-handed sticks are rare, but available. However, they are pointless as the rules forbid their use in a game. To make a strike at the ball with a left to right swing, the player must present the flat of the face of the stick to the ball by reversing the stick head, that is by turning the handle through approximately 180 degree, while a reverse edge hit would turn the stick head through approximately 90 degree from the position of an upright forehand stroke with the face of the stick head. Edge hitting of the ball underwent a 2-year experimental period, twice the usual length of an experimental trial, and is still a matter of some controversy within the sport. Rick Charlesworth, the current Australian coach, has been a strong critic of the unrestricted use of the reverse edge hit. The hard forehand edge hit was banned after similar concerns were expressed about the ability of players to direct the ball accurately, but the reverse edge hit does appear to be more predictable and controllable than its counterpart. Other rules include no foot-to-ball contact, obstructing other players, high backswing, and no third party. If a player is dribbling the ball and either loses control and kicks the ball or another player interferes, that player is not permitted to gain control and continue dribbling. The rules do not allow the person who kicked the ball to gain advantage from the kick, so the ball will automatically be passed on to the opposing team. Conversely, if no advantage is gained from kicking the ball, play should continue. Players may not obstruct another's chance of hitting the ball in any way. No shoving using your body stick to prevent advancement in the other team. Penalty for this is the opposing team receives the ball, and if the problem continues, the player can be carded. While a player is taking a free hit or starting a corner, the backswing of their hit cannot be too high, for this is considered dangerous. Finally, there may not be 3 players touching the ball at one time. 2 players from opposing teams can battle for the ball, however if another player interferes it is considered third party and the ball automatically goes to the team who only had 1 player involved in the third party. Positions: hockey positions are discussed. Notions of fluidity are very common. Each team can be fielded with a maximum of 11 players and will typically arrange themselves into forwards, midfielders, and defensive players, with players frequently moving between theses lines with the flow of play. Each team may also play with a goalkeeper who wears a different color shirt and full protective equipment comprising at least headgear, leg guards and kickers. This player is referred to in the rules as a goalkeeper. Or, a field player with goalkeeping privileges wearing a different color shirt and who may wear protective headgear when inside their defending 23m area. They must wear protective headgear when defending a penalty corner or stroke. This player is referred to in the rules as a player with goalkeeping privileges. Or, only field players. No player has goalkeeping privileges or wears a different color shirt. No player may wear protective headgear except a face mask when defending a penalty corner or stroke. Formations. As hockey has a very dynamic style of play, it is difficult to simplify positions to the static formations which are common in football. Although positions will typically be categorized as either fullback, halfback, midfield inner or striker, it is important for players to have an understanding of every position on the field. For example, it is not uncommon to see a halfback overlap and end up in either attacking position, with the midfield and strikers being responsible for readjusting to fill the space they left. Movement between lines like this is particularly common across all positions, and is performed best by the Australian Kookaburras hockey team. This fluid Australian culture of hockey has been responsible for developing an international trend towards players occupying spaces on the field, not having assigned positions. Although they may have particular spaces on the field which they are more comfortable and effective as players, they are responsible for occupying the space nearest them. This fluid approach to hockey and player movement has made it easy for teams to transition between formations such as 3 at the back, 2 centre halves, 5 at the back, and more. Goalkeepers. When the ball is inside the circle they are defending and they have their stick in their hand, goalkeepers wearing full protective equipment are permitted to use their stick, feet, kickers or leg guards to propel the ball and to use their stick, feet, kickers, leg guards or any other part of their body to stop the ball or direct it in any direction including over the back line. Similarly, field players are permitted to use their stick. They are not allowed to use their feet and legs to propel the ball, stop the ball or deflect it in any direction including over the back line. However, neither goalkeepers, or players with goalkeeping privileges are permitted to conduct themselves in a manner which is dangerous to other players by taking advantage of the protective equipment they wear. Neither goalkeepers or players with goalkeeping privileges may lie on the ball, however, they are permitted to use arms, hands and any other part of their body to push the ball away. Lying on the ball will result into a penalty shot. The action above is permitted only as part of a goal-saving action or to move the ball away from the possibility of a goal-scoring action by opponents. It does not permit a goalkeeper or player with goalkeeping privileges to propel the ball forcefully with arms, hands or body so that it travels a long distance. When the ball is outside the circle they are defending, goalkeepers or players with goalkeeping privileges are only permitted to play the ball with their stick. Further, a goalkeeper, or player with goalkeeping privileges whom is wearing a helmet must not take part in the match outside the 23m area they are defending, except when taking a penalty stroke. A goalkeeper must wear protective headgear at all times, except when taking a penalty stroke. General play. For the purposes of the rules, all players on the team in possession of the ball are attackers, and those on the team without the ball are defenders. Yet throughout the game being played you are always defending your goal and attacking the opposite goal. The match is officiated by 2 field umpires. Traditionally each umpire generally controls half of the field, divided roughly diagonally. These umpires are often assisted by a technical bench including a timekeeper and record keeper. Prior to the start of the game, a coin is tossed and the winning captain can choose a starting end or start with the ball. The game time is divided into 2 equal halves of 35 minutes each, with 5 €10 minutes for half-time, although at local and regional level, games may be reduced to 25 to 30-minute halves to ease turf availability constraints. At the start of each half, as well as after goals are scored, play is started with a pass from the center of the field. All players must start in their defensive half, but the ball may be played in any direction along the floor. Each team starts with the ball in one half, and the team that conceded the goal has possession for the restart. Field players may only play the ball with the face of the stick. If the backside of the stick is used, it is a penalty and the other team will get the ball back. Tackling is permitted as long as the tackler does not make contact with the attacker or his stick before playing the ball. Further, the player with the ball may not deliberately use his body to push a defender out of the way. Field players may not play the ball with their feet, but if the ball accidentally hits the feet, and the player gains no benefit from the contact, then the contact is not penalized. Although there has been a change in the wording of this rule from January 1, 2007, the current FIH umpires briefing instructs umpires not to change the way they interpret this rule. Obstruction typically occurs in three circumstances: Euro, when a defender comes between the player with possession and the ball in order to prevent them tackling. When a defender's stick comes between the attacker's stick and the ball or makes contact with the attacker's stick or body. And also when blocking the opposition's attempt to tackle a teammate with the ball. When the ball passes completely over the sidelines, it is returned to play with a sideline hit, taken by a member of the team whose players were not the last to touch the ball before crossing the sideline. The ball must be placed on the sideline, with the hit taken from as near the place the ball went out of play as possible. If it crosses the back line after last touched by an attacker, a 15am hit. A 15am hit is also awarded for offences committed by the attacking side within 15am of the end of the pitch they are attacking. Set plays. Set plays are often utilised for specific situations such as a penalty corner or free hit. For instance, many teams have penalty corner variations that they can use to beat the defensive team. The coach may have plays that send through balls between two defenders and let the player attack the opposing team's goal. There are no set plays unless your team has them. Free hits. Free hits are awarded when offences are committed outside the scoring circles. The ball may be hit, pushed or lifted in any direction by the team offended against. The ball can be lifted from a free hit but not by hitting. You must flick or scoop to lift from a free hit. Opponents must move 5am from the ball when a free hit is awarded. A free hit must be taken from within playing distance of the place of the offence for which it was awarded, and the ball must be stationary when the free hit is taken. As mentioned above, a 15am hit is awarded if an attacking player commits a foul forward of that line, or if the ball passes over the back line off an attacker. These free hits are taken in line with where the foul was committed. When an attacking free hit is awarded within 5am of the circle, everyone including the person taking the penalty must be 5 meters from the circle, and everyone apart from the person taking the free hit must be 5 meters away from the ball. When taking an attacking free hit, the ball may not be hit straight into the circle if you are within your attacking 23-meter area. It must travel 5 meters before going in. 2009 experimental changes. In February 2009, the FIH introduced, as a mandatory experiment for international competition, an updated version of free hit rule. The changes allows a player taking a free hit to pass the ball to themselves. Importantly, this is not a play-on situation, but to the untrained eye it may appear to be. The player must play the ball any distance in two separate motions, before continuing as if it were a play-on situation. They may raise an aerial or overhead immediately as the second action, or any other stroke permitted by the rules of field hockey. At the high school level, this is called a self-pass and was adopted in Pennsylvania in 2010 as a legal technique for putting the ball in play. Also, all players must be at least 5am from any free hit awarded to the attack within the 23am area. Additionally, no free hits to the attack are permitted within 5m of the circle, so if a free hit is awarded inside this area, it must be dragged back outside this zone. The ball may not travel directly into the circle from a free hit to the attack within the 23m area without first being touched by another player or being dribbled at least 5m by a player making a self-pass. These experimental rules apply to all free hit situations, including sideline and corner hits. National associations may also choose to introduce these rules for their domestic competitions. Corner. A corner is awarded if the ball goes over the back line after last being touched by a defender, provided they do not play it over the back line deliberately, in which case a penalty corner is awarded. Corners are played by the attacking team and involve a free hit on the sideline 5am from the corner of the field closest to where the ball went out of play. These restarts are also known as long corners. The defense must wait until the offender passes the ball in. The offender has to pull the ball out of the circle before trying to make a goal. Penalty corner. The short or penalty corner is awarded for an offence by a defender in the circle which does not prevent the probable scoring of a goal, for an intentional offence in the circle by a defender against an opponent who does not have possession of the ball or an opportunity to play the ball, for an intentional offence by a defender outside the circle but within the 23-meter area they are defending, for intentionally playing the ball over the back line by a defender, When the ball becomes lodged in a player's clothing or equipment while in the circle they are defending, short corners begin. With 5 defenders positioned behind the backline and at least 10 yards from the nearest goalpost. All other players in the defending team must be beyond the center line, that is not in their own half of the pitch, until the ball is in play. Attacking players begin the play standing outside the scoring circle, except for one attacker who starts the corner by playing the ball from a mark 10 am either side of the goal. This player puts the ball into play by pushing or hitting the ball to the other attackers outside the circle. The ball must pass outside the circle and then put back into the circle before the attackers may make a shot at the goal from which a goal can be scored. FIH rules do not forbid a shot at goal before the ball leaves the circle after being inserted, nor is a shot at the goal from outside the circle prohibited, but a goal cannot be scored at all if the ball has not gone out of the circle and cannot be scored from a shot from outside the circle if it is not again played by an attacking player before it enters the goal. For safety reasons, the first shot of a penalty corner must not exceed 460 m high at the point it crosses the goal line if it is hit. However, if the ball is deemed to be below backboard height, the ball can be subsequently deflected above this height by another player, providing that this deflection does not lead to danger. Note that the slap stroke is classed as a hit, and so the first shot at goal must be below backboard height for this type of shot also. If the first shot at goal in a short corner situation is a push, flick or scoop, in particular the drag flick, the shot is permitted to rise above the height of the blackboard, as long as the shot is not deemed dangerous to any opponent. This form of shooting was developed because it is not height restricted in the same way as the first hit shot at the goal, and players with good technique are able to drag flick with as much power as many others can hit a ball. Penalty stroke. A penalty stroke is awarded when a defender commits a foul in the circle that prevents a probable goal or commits a deliberate foul in the circle, or if defenders repeatedly run from the back line too early at a penalty corner. The penalty stroke is taken by a single attacker in the circle, against the goalkeeper, from a spot 6.4 am from goal. The ball is played only once at goal by the attacker using a push, flick or scoop stroke. If the shot is saved, play is restarted with a 15 m hit to the defenders. When a goal is scored, play is restarted in the normal way. Dangerous play and raised balls. According to the current rules of hockey 2013 issued by the FIH, there are only 2 criteria for a dangerously played ball. The first is legitimate evasive action by an opponent. The second is specific to the rule concerning a shot at goal at a penalty corner, but is generally, if somewhat inconsistently, applied throughout the game and in all parts of the pitch. It is that a ball lifted above knee height and at an opponent who is within 5 m of the ball is certainly dangerous. The velocity of the ball is not mentioned in the rules concerning a dangerously played ball. A ball that hits a player above the knee may on some occasions not be penalized, this is in the umpire's discretion. A jab tackle, for example, might accidentally lift the ball above knee height into an opponent from close range, but at such low velocity as not to be, in the opinion of the umpire, dangerous play. In the same way, a high velocity hit at very close range into an opponent, but below knee height, could be considered to be dangerous or reckless play in the view of the umpire, especially when safer alternatives are open to the striker of the ball. A ball that has been lifted high so that it will fall among close opponents may be deemed to be potentially dangerous, and play may be stopped for that reason. A lifted ball that is falling to a player in clear space may be made potentially dangerous by the actions of an opponent closing to within 5 m of the receiver before the ball has been controlled to ground, a rule which is often only loosely applied. The distance allowed is often only what might be described as playing distance, to a 3 am, and opponents tend to be permitted to close on the ball as soon as the receiver plays it. These unofficial variations are often based on the umpire's perception of the skill of the players that is on the level of the game, in order to maintain game flow, which umpires are in general in both rules and briefing instructed to do, by not penalizing when it is unnecessary to do so. This is also a matter in the umpire's discretion. The term falling ball is important in what may be termed encroaching offenses. It is generally only considered an offense to encroach on an opponent receiving a lifted ball that has been lifted to above head height and is falling. So, for example, A lifted shot at the goal which is still rising as it crosses the goal line can be legitimately followed up by any of the attacking team looking for a rebound. In general, even potentially dangerous play is not penalized if an opponent is not disadvantaged by it or, obviously, not injured by it so that he cannot continue. A personal penalty, that is a caution or a suspension, rather than a team penalty, such as a free ball or a penalty corner, may be issued to the guilty party after an advantage allowed by the umpire has been played out in any situation where an offence has occurred, including dangerous play. It is not an offence to lift the ball over an opponent's stick, provided that it is done with consideration for the safety of the opponent and not dangerously. For example, a skillful attacker may lift the ball over a defender's stick or prone body and run past them. However, if the attacker lifts the ball into or at the defender's body, this would almost certainly be regarded as dangerous. It is not against the rules to bounce the ball on the stick and even to run with it while doing so, as long as that does not lead to a potentially dangerous conflict with an opponent who is attempting to make a tackle. For example, two players trying to play at the ball in the air at the same time would probably be considered a dangerous situation, and it is likely that the player who first put the ball up or who was so carrying it would be penalized. Dangerous play rules also apply to the usage of the stick when approaching the ball, making a stroke at it or attempting to tackle. The use of the stick to strike an opponent will usually be much more severely dealt with by the umpires than offences such as barging, impeding and obstruction with the body, although these are also dealt with firmly, especially when these fouls are intentional. Field hockey is a non-contact sport. Players may not play or attempt to play at the ball above their shoulders unless trying to save a shot that could go into the goal, in which case they are permitted to stop the ball or deflect it safely away. A swing, as in a hit, at a high shot at the goal will probably be considered dangerous play if at opponents within 5 am, and such a stroke would be contrary to rule in these circumstances anyway. Within the English National League, it is now a legal action to take a ball above shoulder height if completed using a controlled action. Warnings and suspensions, the penalty cards. Hockey uses a three-tier penalty card system of warnings and suspensions. A green card is fairly similar to an association football yellow card. The player does not have to leave the pitch, but any further infractions will result in a yellow or red card. A yellow card is an official suspension similar to the penalty box in ice hockey. The duration is decided by the umpire issuing the card, and the player must go to a predefined area of the pitch as chosen by the umpires at the beginning of the match. Most umpires will opt for a minimum of 5 minutes duration without substitution. The maximum time is at the discretion of the umpire, depending on the seriousness of the offence. For example, the second yellow to the same player or the first for danger might be given 10 minutes. It is possible to yellow card a player for the entirety of a game. A red card, just like in association football, is a permanent exclusion from the rest of the game, without substitution, and it usually results in the player being banned for a certain period of time or number of matches. The player must also leave the pitch and surrounding area. In addition to their colors, field hockey penalty cards are often shaped differently, so they can be recognized easily. Green cards are normally triangular, yellow cards rectangular and red cards circular. Unlike football, a player may receive more than one green or yellow card. However, they cannot receive the same card for the same offense, and the second must always be a more serious card. In the case of a second yellow card for a different breach of the rules, the temporary suspension would be expected to be of considerably longer duration than the first. However, local playing conditions may mandate that cards are awarded only progressively, and not allow any second awards. Referees may also advance a free hit by up to 10 am for dissent or other misconduct after a penalty has been awarded. Or, if the free hit would have been in the attacking 23 am area, upgrade the penalty to a penalty corner. Scoring: the team's object is to play the ball into their attacking circle and, from there, hit, push or flick the ball into the goal, scoring a goal. The team with more goals after 2 35-minute halves wins the game. The playing time may be shortened, particularly when younger players are involved, or for some tournament play. Tie-breaking. In many competitions, a tied result stands and the overall competition standings are adjusted accordingly. Since March 2013, when tie-breaking is required, the official FIH tournament regulations mandate since March 2013 to no longer have extra time and go directly into a penalty shootout when a classification match ends in a tie. However, many associations follow the previous procedure consisting of 2 periods of 7.5 minutes of golden goal extra time during which the game ends as soon as one team scores. Rule change procedure. The FIH implemented a 2-year rule cycle with the 2007 Euro 08 edition of the rules, with the intention that the rules be reviewed on a biennial basis. The 2009 rulebook was officially released in early March 2009, however the FIH published the major changes in February. The current rulebook is effective from January 1, 2011. The FIH has adopted a policy of including major changes to the rules as mandatory experiments, showing that they must be played at international level, but are treated as experimental and will be reviewed before the next rulebook is published and either changed, approved as permanent rules, or deleted. Recent examples of such experiments include a fixed 2-minute suspension for a green card and ability to request video umpiring decisions. Local rules. There are sometimes minor variations in rules from competition to competition. For instance, the duration of matches is often varied for junior competitions or for carnivals. Different national associations also have slightly differing rules on player equipment. The new Euro Hockey League has made major alterations to the rules to aid television viewers, such as splitting the game into 4 quarters, and to try to improve player behavior, such as a 2-minute suspension for green cards. The latter was also used in the 2010 World Cup. In the United States, the NCAA has its own rules for intercollegiate competitions. High school associations similarly play to different rules, usually using the rules published by the National Federation of State High School Associations. This article assumes FIH rules unless otherwise stated. USA Field Hockey produces an annual summary of the differences. In the United States, the games at the junior high level consist of 2 25-minute halves, while the high school level consists of 2 30-minute halves. Many private American schools play 25-minute halves, and some have adopted FIH rules rather than NFHS rules. Players are required to wear mouth guards and shin guards in order to play the game. Also, there is a newer rule requiring certain types of sticks be used. In recent years, the NFHS rules have moved closer to FIH. But in 2011 a new rule requiring protective eyewear was introduced for the 2011 fall season. The cage-style goggles favored by U.S. high school lacrosse and permitted in high school field hockey is not permitted under FIH rules. Equipment: field hockey stick. Each player carries a stick that normally measures between 80 to 95 cm long. Shorter or longer sticks are available. Sticks were traditionally made of wood, but are now often made also with fiberglass, Kevlar and/or carbon fiber composites. Metal is forbidden from use in field hockey sticks, due to the risk of injury from sharp edges if the stick were to break. The stick has a rounded handle, has a J-shaped hook at the bottom, and is flattened on the left side. All sticks are right-handed. Left-handed sticks are not permitted. There was traditionally a slight curve from the top to bottom of the face side of the stick and another on the heel edge to the top of the handle, which assisted in the positioning of the stick head in relation to the ball and made striking the ball easier and more accurate. The hook at the bottom of the stick was only recently the tight curve that we have nowadays. The older English sticks had a longer bend, making it very hard to use the stick on the reverse. For this reason players now use the tight curved sticks. The handle makes up about the top third of the stick. It is wrapped in a grip similar to that used on tennis racket. The grip may be made of a variety of materials, including chamois leather, which many players think improves grip in the wet. It was recently discovered that increasing the depth of the face bow made it easier to get high speeds from the drag flick and made the stroke easier to execute. At first, after this feature was introduced, the Hockey Rules Board placed a limit of 50 mm on the maximum depth of bow over the length of the stick, but experience quickly demonstrated this to be excessive. New rules now limit this curve to under 25 ohms so as to limit the power with which the ball can be flicked. Field hockey ball. Standard field hockey balls are hard spherical balls, made of plastic, and are usually white, although they can be any color as long as they contrast with the playing surface. The balls have a circumference of 224 euro 235 ohm and weigh 156 euro 163 ag. The ball is often covered with indentations to reduce aquaplaning that can cause an inconsistent ball speed on wet surfaces. Goalkeeping equipment. The 2007 rule book has seen major changes regarding goalkeepers. A fully equipped goalkeeper must wear a helmet, leg guards and kickers. Usually the field hockey goalkeepers must wear extensive additional protective equipment including chest guards, padded shorts, heavily padded hand protectors, groin protectors, neck guards, arm guards, and like all players, they must carry a stick. A goalie may not cross the 23 am line, the sole exception to this being if the goalkeeper is to take a penalty stroke at the other end of the field, when the clock is stopped. The goalkeeper can also remove their helmet for this action. However, if the goalkeeper elects to wear only a helmet, they may cross the 23 am line if they have removed their helmet. If play returns to the circle without them having opportunity to replace the helmet, this player still has goalkeeping privileges, that is, they are not limited to using their stick to play the ball whilst it is in the circle, and the helmet must be worn whilst defending penalty corners and penalty strokes, but the best thing to do would be to wear it at all times. While goaltenders are allowed to use their feet and hands to clear the ball, they too are only allowed to use one side of their stick. Slide tackling is permitted as long as it is with the intention of clearing the ball, not aimed at a player. It is now also even possible for teams to have a full 11 outfield players and no goalkeeper at all. No player may wear a helmet or other goalkeeping equipment, neither will any player be able to play the ball with any other part of the body than with their stick. This may be used to offer a tactical advantage, or to allow for play to commence if no goalkeeper or kit is available. Tactics. The basic tactic in field hockey, as in association football and many other team games, is to outnumber the opponent in a particular area of the field at a moment in time. When in possession of the ball, this temporary numerical superiority can be used to pass the ball around opponents so that they cannot effect a tackle because they cannot get within playing reach of the ball, and to further use this numerical advantage to gain time and create clear space for making scoring shots on the opponent's goal. When not in possession of the ball, numerical superiority is used to isolate and channel an opponent in possession and mark out any passing options so that an interception or a tackle may be made to gain possession. Highly skillful players can sometimes get the better of more than one opponent and retain the ball and successfully pass or shoot, but this tends to use more energy than quick early passing. Every player has a role depending on their relationship to the ball if the team communicates throughout the play of the game. There will be players on the ball, offensively, ball carriers. Defensively, pressure, support players, and movement players. The main methods by which the ball is moved around the field by players are A, passing, B, pushing the ball and running with it controlled to the front or right of the body, and 3, dribbling, where the player controls the ball with the stick and moves in various directions with it to elude opponents. To make a pass, the ball may be propelled with a pushing stroke, where the player uses their wrists to push the stick head through the ball while the stick head is in contact with it. The flick, or scoop, similar to the push but with an additional arm and leg and rotational actions to lift the ball off the ground. And the hit, where a swing at ball is taken and contact with it is often made very forcefully, causing the ball to be propelled at velocities in excess of 70 mph. In order to produce a powerful hit, usually for travel over long distances or shooting at the goal, the stick is raised higher and swung with maximum power at the ball, a stroke sometimes known as a drive. Tackles are made by placing the stick into the path of the ball or playing the stick head or shaft directly at the ball. To increase the effectiveness of the tackle, players will often place the entire stick close to the ground horizontally, thus representing a wider barrier. To avoid the tackle, the ball carrier will either pass the ball to a teammate using any of the push, flick, or hit strokes, or attempt to maneuver or drag the ball around the tackle, trying to deceive the tackler. In recent years, the penalty corner has gained importance as a goal-scoring opportunity, particularly with the technical development of the drag flick. Tactics at penalty corners to set up time for a shot with a drag flick or a hit shot at the goal involve various complex plays, including multiple passes before a deflections towards the goal is made, but the most common method of shooting is the direct flick or hit at the goal. At the highest level, field hockey is a fast-moving, highly skilled sport, with players using fast moves with a stick, quick accurate passing, and hard hits, in attempts to keep possession and move the ball towards the goal. Tackling with physical contact and otherwise physically obstructing players is not permitted. Some of the tactics used resemble football, but with greater ball speed. With the 2009 changes to the rules regarding free hits in the attacking 23m area, the common tactic of hitting the ball hard into the circle was forbidden. Although at higher levels this was considered tactically risky and low percentage at creating scoring opportunities, it was used with some effect to win penalty corners by forcing the ball onto a defender's foot or to deflect high off a defender's stick. The FIH felt it was a dangerous practice that could easily lead to raised deflections and injuries in the circle, which is often crowded at a free hit situation, and outlawed it. International competition. The biggest two field hockey tournaments are the Olympic Games tournament, and the Hockey World Cup, which is also held every 4 years. Apart from this, there is the Champions Trophy held each year for the 6 top-ranked teams. Field hockey has also been played at the Commonwealth Games since 1998. Amongst the men, India led in Olympic competition, having won 8 golds, while Pakistan lead in the World Cup having lifted it 4 times. Amongst the women, Australia and Netherlands have 3 Olympic golds while Netherlands has clinched the World Cup 6 times. The Sultan Azlan Shah Hockey Tournament and Sultan Ibrahim Ismail Hockey Tournament is for the junior team, but both tournament held annually in Malaysia, is becoming a prominent field hockey tournament where teams from around the world participate to win the cup. India and Pakistan dominated men's hockey until the early 1980s, winning 4 of the first 5 World Cups, but have become less prominent with the ascendancy of the Netherlands, Germany, New Zealand, Australia and Spain since the late 1980s, as grass playing surfaces were replaced with artificial turf. Other notable men's nations include Argentina, England and South Korea. Despite their recent drop in international rankings, Pakistan still holds the record of 4 World Cup wins. The Netherlands was the predominant women's team before field hockey was added to Olympic events. In the early 1990s, Australia emerged as the strongest women's country, although retirement of a number of players weakened the team. Other prominent women's teams are Argentina, China, Korea, Germany and South Africa. As of June 2013, Germany's men's team and the Netherlands' women's teams lead the FIH World Rankings. This is a list of the major international field hockey tournaments, in chronological order. Tournaments included are, Olympic Games, held every 4 years. World Cup, held every 4 years, in between the Olympics. Champions Trophy, currently held every year, for the top 8 ranked nations. Champions Challenge, held every year for teams ranked 9th-16th in the world. Champions Challenge 2, held every year for teams ranked 17th-24th in the world. Although invitational or not open to all countries, the following are also considered international tournaments: Commonwealth Games, a Euro held every 4 years between members of the Commonwealth of Nations; Sultan Azlan Shah Hockey Tournament, held annually in Malaysia, an invitational tournament. Sultan Ibrahim Ismail Hockey Tournament, held annually for athletes aged under 21 in Malaysia, an invitational tournament. Variants: Hockey Fives, an Asian qualification tournament for 2 places at the 2014 Youth Olympic Games, was the first time an FIH event used the Hockey Fives format. Hockey Fives will be used for the Youth Olympic Hockey Tournament. As the name suggests, Hockey Fives is a hockey variant which features 5 players on each team. The field of play is 55 am long and 41.70 am wide. Euro. This is approximately half the size of a regular pitch. Few additional markings are needed as there is no penalty circle nor penalty corners. Shots can be taken from anywhere on the pitch. Penalty strokes are replaced by a challenge, which is like the one-on-one method used in a penalty shootout. The duration of the match is 3 12-minute periods with an interval of 2 minutes between periods. The rules are simpler and it is hoped that the game will be faster, create more shots on goal with less play in midfield, and be more attractive to spectators. References. External links: the FIFA Euro copyright DAO copyright Ration International de Hockey Euro the game's international governing body, FIH Rules of Hockey 2006, FIH Rules of Hockey 2007 Euro 08, FIH Rules of Hockey 2007/8 Briefing and Guidance for Umpires, FIH Rules of Hockey 2009, FIH Rules of Hockey 2013, New Hockey Laws Ended India's Rule, Times of India, February 27, 2010 Euro Summary of some historical rule changes.